The average goblin is worth 135 experience. The average human townsfolk is worth between 130 to 200 experience. Now, I'm not telling you how to get your levels, but I am saying it's something to consider. Hey kids, welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and I hope you're having a great day. Now, last week, I went over my top 5 Pathfinder First Edition books that I think you should have in your collection. And today's video is a follow-up to that, where I go over my top 5 Pathfinder thin books that you should have in your collection. Now, Paizo has printed a lot of thin books for the game. I mean, whew, look at this stack. This is not all of them. This is just what I have. It's absolutely insane. But I've taken it upon myself to narrow that stack down to the 5-ish that I think are probably the best. Now, before we begin, I need to disclose something. You see, there are actually 2 kinds of Pathfinder themed books. There is the player companion, which is really thin, doesn't even have a spine to it, and this tends to have, you know, a few pages worth of relevant, useful information for players, but tends to be mostly fluff. And then there is the Pathfinder campaign setting, which is a bit thicker, has a spine with a label on it, and tends to have a good mix of new options for players and flavor for GMs to use. Now, I'm going to be combining both kinds of books into one for the purposes of this video, but if you would like me to give separate lists for each kind in the future, let me know, and I'm sure at some point in the future I could make those videos happen. The first book on our list is Inner Sea Magic, and I really enjoy this one. It is a kind of a good mix of flavor and crunch. It gives a huge rundown on the Inner Sea kinds of magic. It gives you a list of noteworthy spellcasters found in the Inner Sea region, and it also gives a wide selection of new kinds of magic, including false divine magic, tattoo magic, sin magic. There's a few archetypes, new prestige class. It's a solid book that's got a lot going on for it, and if you've ever wanted to design your own kind of unique spellcaster living in Garian, this book has quite a lot for you. This book also has big titty goth witches. Next up, we have Blood of Fiends. Now, there are a lot of Blood of X books in the player companion lineup, but I've chosen Blood of Fiends for one reason, and that is Tieflings are an extremely popular choice for players even to this day, and this book has a lot of good information for Tiefling players. Not just mechanically, but flavorfully well, and they tend to tie together really nicely. You know, in addition to the basic traits of a Tiefling, the modifiers, etc., it gives you backgrounds for the various kinds of lineages a Tiefling can have. You know, Tieflings that had a demon parent, a devil parent, an Oni parent, a Rakshasa parent. And it's also got this really wonderful double-page table. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. This thing right here is a variant table for the different kinds of mutations and abilities a Tiefling can have, just randomly caused by demonic mutation. And I think that's really cool. Now, I'm what some game masters would call a very boring player. I like to have human fighters, but I can't deny the versatility that some of these other races provide, and for those of you who want to play as Tieflings, this book is pretty great. Next up, I'm showing my hand and cheating a bit because we have The Adventurer's Armory and The Adventurer's Armory 2 in one slot. Virtually every single character I've ever made in Pathfinder has used something from The Adventurer's Armory 1. My favorite item being the bear trap, which doesn't seem that impressive, I admit, but it's a really cool item that can do a lot of damage in the right circumstances. There's also a lot of really cool toys here. Like, there's the Kapesh, I think the butterfly knife is in here, the scissor, the chakram, the Hunga-Munga, which is a really cool knife. Let's see if this book, I'm pretty sure there's a picture of it in here. Hang on. Yeah, there it is. That right there is the Hunga-Munga, aka the coolest knife in Pathfinder. I don't tend to use Adventurer's Armory 2 as much, but when I do, it's because I want to add some kind of exotic flair to a character I'm making. There is some cool stuff in here, alcohols, tea scents, etc. But there's this new kind of construct introduced in this book called the poppet. And they're just easy to create. There's a good picture of one right there. Yeah. Little assistants that you can take on adventures with you. And I think they are really cool. And I like having them when I have the ability to utilize them. Now, I always say that role-playing, not your equipment, is what makes a good character, but having some unique pieces of equipment can be really helpful in making yourself stand out in a group of adventurers. And both of these books have really good pieces of equipment for you to use, whether it's a unique knife or a portable terrarium you can stick an animal in, just to say, hey, I've got a frog that I carry with me everywhere I go. They're both really nice books, and I enjoy flipping through them whenever I have the chance. You know what your fantasy adventure needs? Some sci-fi. The next book I recommend you have in your collection is The Technology God, and this bad boy is exactly what it says on the cover. It contains all sorts of rules for futuristic, advanced science mumbo-jumbo. You've got things like batteries, robotic suits, cybernetic implementations like robotic arms, etc., and also futuristic weaponry like the extremely cybernetic chainsaw. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who want absolutely nothing advanced, modern, or futuristic in their fantasy role-playing games, and that is totally fine. I respect that. This book is great because it gives you the option to use it if you do want it. It goes into extreme detail about not only how this technology works, but how to use it, how to properly implement it in your games if you so choose. And that kind of option, access to options, is part of what I love so much about Pathfinder, and this book is an excellent representation of just how many choices you have as a player and as a game master. Also, like I said, it's got chainsaws. Come on, you know you want to kill the evil wizard with a chainsaw. Who wouldn't? And finally, we have Goblins of Garian, which is perhaps my favorite book in the entire Pathfinder lineup, if I'm being completely honest. Pathfinder's goblins are probably my favorite depiction of goblins in any sort of media. They're zany, chaotic, they're very destructive, paranoid, superstitious, and absolutely fun to play as and to fight against because of their various curiosities as creatures. And this book tells you everything you need to know about them. Not only does it give you some neat options to use when playing as a goblin, and yes, you can play as a goblin, but it also gives you some things like goblin gods, how they came to be, and more. It's a really well fleshed out book. Once there were no goblins. Most goblins agree that this was an unacceptable state of affairs. Now, I don't know what to tell you, but if that opening line doesn't convince you that this book is pretty great, I don't know what will. Did you know that goblins believe writing words down literally steals that word from your mind? Now you do, thanks to this book. And there you go. Those are my top 5 suggestions for Pathfinder themed books that you should have in your collection. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, if you have a suggestion for future topics I should cover, let me know in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.